Hello and welcome to Creator Toolbox. This is the video series from ServiceNow where we give you the tools to make you a more effective developer. Whether it's admin, developer, somewhere in the middle, all skill sets, we've got something for you on this show. So let's do some quick introductions before we go around. There's no drinking on this one. That's the other show we do. It looks a lot alike. I know it can be confusing sometimes. That's Live Coding Happy Hour. This is Creator Toolbox. My name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior Developer Advocate with ServiceNow. I've been with the company since 2010, customer for a couple of years before that, and a long, long history that now extends past 40 years into the distant past on computing and developing. Next, this young lady over here.
Hey, good morning or evening or afternoon, everybody. My name is Lauren McManaman. I'm the newest member of the team. I've been at ServiceNow 5 years, but previously I was in a technical sales role. And prior to that, I was also a ServiceNow developer at one of our lovely customers. So extremely excited to be here, and I'll pass it down below to Earl.
Oh, and exciting times because you'll very soon not be the newest team member.
It's true. A little bit of a spoiler.
So coming very soon, a new team member will be joining us.
We'll have an announcement in a couple of weeks. Stay tuned.
My name is Earl Duque. I am a developer advocate here at ServiceNow. I've been with the team for about a year, a little bit more than a year now. But before that, I was doing development and senior development at a bunch of customers in higher ed, and mostly higher ed, yeah. And back to Chuck.
Thanks. We're just having fun with the windows now. All right, quick reminder that this content is part of our Tokyo series. We are still in, well, no, we're not in early availability because it was general availability about a month ago at the end of September. But we are covering all of our platform, app engine, automation engine content that we can. If you want to find the whole calendar of what we've done up to this point and what's still planned, you can go over to devlink.sn/Tokyo. Good stuff there. We've also got, it is between October 18th and November 15th as we record this. I feel like, you know, the movie The Jerk, where you can have anything between the chiclets and the pencil erasers, but that's a reference for another time. We are in the call for content period. So if you are interested in speaking at our next knowledge event, particularly the developer part of it called CreatorCon, you can go to devlink.sn/CC23, that's CreatorCon 23, CFC, call for content, not chlorofluorocarbons. Those were banned years ago. But you're not banned from doing your call for content. If you've got an idea, we just need a title and abstract. We've got open office hours. If you go to that page and you want to polish that idea, you want to get an idea inspired from somebody else or from some projects you've done, we would love to hear your ideas. We have another one coming up tomorrow, too, actually. We do these that are time zone friendly for as much as we can of the world. So hope to see you there. And what did I miss? Oh, meetups are coming up. We've got Lauren doing a few in-person meetups, Chicago and Madison and Atlanta. And I've got Boston, New York, and Washington, D.C. at the end of November. So if you want to know more about those, you can go over to devlink.sn/meetups. And if you can't remember all of these devlink things, you can go to devlink.sn/links. That's sort of our master directory of the common ones where we want you to go. Look at that. Earl is on the ball with those subtitles. Soon I'm going to have to learn to be as masterful as he is at changing the scenes and changing the titles, because Earl is going to be taking some personal time soon.
This is my last live stream of the year. I'll be taking parental leave starting, well, anytime now.
You're still going to be releasing shorts?
You know, I have a lot of ideas. We'll see how the baby allows me to record any of them.
Yeah, like
how to record as a new, I mean, how to do development as a new parent, typing one-handed. All right, enough with the intros. Let's get on with the general content. I am going to step aside virtually, not literally, and let Lauren take over and show you what do we have today, as the title suggests.
Today we're talking about I wasn't ready for that one.
My bad.
Whoa!
Sorry.
So today we're talking about multilingual email notification. So for the vast majority of ServiceNow customers, email still represents the most popular means of communicating, both sometimes internally and externally using the ServiceNow platform. Obviously, we have a lot of other tools for communication, such as maybe not doing communication with a human like agents or doing things with the mobile push notifications. But it's really difficult to get organizations unentrenched from the usage of email. And one of the blessings of today's world is really easy to communicate with anyone in the world. But the consequence of that is that sometimes that is not done in someone's native language. I know that personally at ServiceNow, we work with a variety of countries as customers. We have a variety of offices to work from. And sometimes it does present issues of like, how is it the best way to communicate with somebody when you don't speak the same language? Luckily, Tokyo offers a kind of a nice bridge into easing that process. It is not completely at the behest of organizing multiple versions of email notification templates and kind of kickstarts a much more fluid process. So before we start, there's actually two ways this is now handled on ServiceNow. The first is probably it might be the more familiar way, which is dynamic translation. Dynamic translation has existed to some extent on the platform, I think since Quebec, Chuck?
I can't be certain. I wasn't paying attention. It's one of those features that just sort of snuck up on us. Like, hey, that happened when?
Yeah.
I don't know. It could have been Dublin for all I know.
True. I mean, to some extent, I know that they were building the ServiceNow spokes for I think it's IBM's Watson, the Azure translator, and I believe the Google one as well, that basically allows ServiceNow to reach out if you are a third-party customer of one of those services and use that engine to translate various things on the platform. That is something that has existed. But however, that's not a service that everyone has access to. I believe that those are all paid services as well. So oftentimes there's some sort of globalization team or something similar that helps with internal translations of assets. However, there was never a good way of organizing those. Like I said before, most people were just creating multiple versions of the same email for the variety of languages it could go to. But there was no link between them. So if one expired or one was changed, there was nothing out of the box that would intuitively tell someone to do the same to the other languages. Similarly, a step a lot of customers took was to build that aspect themselves. And so obviously, if there's something that a vast majority of people are doing, we try to provide as part of the platform for free as well. And so that was what we are focusing on today, which is the static translation aspect of the platform. And now I will go over to my screen, Earl. Thank you so much. Because this is a part of the platform that is available today, I wanted to kind of highlight the steps that you could use to get it started. So essentially, where do most turning ons begin? They begin as part of the plugin system. So if you go to your ServiceNow store and search through the variety of plugins, the plugin that you are looking for today is this com.glide.notification.translation, which I will put right there in our chat as well. This plugin doesn't take super long to turn on, which is nice. It's not going to kind of completely take down your instance in the process, but this is what sets up the translation aspect of email notifications. Another thing that you must do after this is active, you actually don't have to wait for it to be active. You can just kind of do it on your own, is that you also have to create a system property. This property does not exist, so if you search for it, it will not show up. Which I will put as well in the chat, is glide.email.outbound.statictranslation.enabled. A very eloquently named system property that allows you to essentially turn off or on the option for static translation. When you create this, make sure you create it in the global scope. Obviously, if you're developing a lot of apps, you might have a scope previously selected. So make sure that that is the one that is global.
You'll know if you're in the wrong scope because it'll put a prefix on there for you, and suddenly you go, wow, this is really, really long with X
Yeah.
underscore something, something underscore something, dot, glide, dot. It's like, that ain't right. That won't work.
Brevity is not the strong suit of this, but it works very well. Also, make sure that the type is true or false, obviously, to make sure that you can turn on or turn off this property and set its value to true. Now, in addition to this, if you are wanting to test this out, let's say that you work at a company that, like only predominantly uses English, your system instance is set to English, and there is no internationalization settings previously turned on. If you're wanting to test this out, you can go ahead and go to all again. You're going to search for language. And under the system localization settings, you will see a list of all the languages that ServiceNow handles. Now, obviously from this, most of them are set to false. So if you're wanting to test this, like for example, in honor of Tokyo, we're testing this out in Japanese. I had to go and turn on Japanese to be active because otherwise we could not set that as one of our users' preferred languages. So, the nice thing about this is this revolves around the concept of like helping out your users. So our story today starts with a user. Obviously, Tokyo instance, we have to use Japanese. One of my favorite Japanese celebrities is, is a figure skater. His name is Yuzuru Hanyu. He's unbelievable. He won 2 gold medals in a row.
Good.
He's if you have any time, Google his routines. But as you can see here, we've set this up and we have set his language as Japanese. If we had not turned on the language to be active, it would have just shown system English and English as the option. So that's what I mean when I said, if you want to test this out appropriately, you're going to have to turn on those localization settings.
Yeah, and turning on the language translation, like the core localization stuff, does take a while.
Mm-hmm.
So be patient about that, and then you'll need to activate each language as necessary. So it's loading up a lot of dictionary entries, it's loading up a lot of sys documentation entries, it's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes for sys choice, a lot of the out-of-the-box stuff. If you've done any development, just a quick disclaimer, if you've done any changes like, hey, I added a new state to the incident table, it's not going to translate that. So we've got a whole other set of videos and podcasts and whatnot on language translation. I think we've have like old Tech Now videos from years ago that can help you go through that. But just wanted to make you aware, these things don't just show up by magic. It's not going to recognize a new custom table that you made and go, I'll translate the labels for that too. Nope.
It does. It's a considerable amount of data. So that's a really good point, Chuck. So obviously, to work with notifications, we have to pull up an email notification itself, which is the one thing I did not add to my favorites today. So we're going to go into to search for the word email. It will be relatively towards the bottom and go under notifications. So if you've never worked with email notifications before, essentially allows you to set up a template for who, what, and when something will be sent to a user. So I think I just called this static translation test, an aptly named notification test. So for us, you set this up exactly like you would set up any other notification. Essentially, you fill it out as you would for the default language, and we're going to add an extra. Come on.
Oh, it wouldn't be a good demo without one of those.
No, unfortunately not. There we go. So as you can see on a surface level, this looks like any notification that you might have set up before. It has its name, it has its table. It has when it is being sent. So in this circumstance, this email is when an incident is created or updated, where the short description contains static translation test incident. It is being sent to whomever the incident is assigned to. And in what it will contain, I just wrote, this is the English version, and it says, hello, insert assigned to name here. Now, one question I got when I was kind of going through the documentation and like the TOIs on this was, why wouldn't you want everything dynamically translated? Like, why would you want to handle something statically at all if you already had dynamic translation as something your company was paying for? That could be a variety of reasons. And it could come down to a straight word for word translation is sometimes not the most accurate for like cultural sensitivities. Maybe you want to add in something specific for a region based off of the time of year or something like that as well. It was just kind of something that we addressed with our templates. So again, everything looks fine, but if we keep scrolling, we see that there's always going to be an advanced view of most records on ServiceNow, which is where we'll see the options for static translation.
There's also a UI action down there that says request translation. So if there's something that you don't see, you can use this as an intake to find out if there's demand for this.
Correct.
You're getting some skater smack talk from Gabby.
I know, I see that. I'm seeing the Shoma Uno representation in the chat, which I do like to see. He is also very good, but man, he doesn't have 2 goals though. I'm just gonna say that. So as we scroll down past all the other aspects of our form, we will come across the 2 related lists at the bottom. One, obviously, email access restrictions, that's same as normal. But now you see that we have a translated notification. So if we go ahead and open this up, you will see that I created a translated notification for the Japanese language. So the fun fact, you don't have to turn on localization to create translated emails, which is odd. It's a little bit ass backwards. I think you can do this without being able to test for it. So that's something to be mindful of. So to create this, essentially you select the parent. So it creates a relationship between these 2, which is really nice for the sake of management and obviously improvement over time, and the various language that it is being linked to. So essentially ServiceNow's platform, when it is running this engine, will say, hey, we're sending out this email. If a translated notification exists for this person's preferred language, send this copy instead. So I am learning Japanese. I apologize if this is wrong. It basically says this is a Japanese version. It says hello. And instead of saying the full name like you would in English, it says the last name in san, which is much more appropriate for communicating Japanese. So
good point. Good point. Yeah, there are cultural differences. You can't just go to Google Translate and say, hey, translate this for me and get back what you get. I mean, there's a huge benefit to understanding what the protocol is.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and test and see if this works. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So per our use case, we're going to go ahead and create a new incident. I've set up a template for this as well. So I always like to advocate for the usage of these form templates. They're always nice. This just filled in the correct short description so that I wouldn't misspell it and not trigger the notification. And now we can decide who this is assigned to. So we're going to go ahead and select Useru, and we're going to go ahead and save our new incident.
You got a promotion. After his skating career ended, he went and became...
He's working the help desk? Yeah. He's a huge promotion.
That was a way to be a ServiceNow developer.
Yeah. It's very funny. If you've ever watched his clips from the Olympics, he's kind of like a rock star. He's like, one of his favorite things is Winnie the Pooh. Like he has a Winnie the Pooh tissue box. And when he performed really, really well, it was like a rain of Winnie the Pooh figurines from all of his fans.
Wow.
Which is very funny. Also, it was very funny because in China, Winnie the Pooh is banned. So there was like controversy around bringing Winnie the Pooh in. Anyway, so let's go ahead and we're going to check our outbox for our sent email. Now, the interesting thing, go ahead and ignore, I'll filter those out. So, wait. Yes, okay, we're fine. Hang on. Where is my...
Didn't you translate the subject also?
I might have selected the wrong mailbox. Yeah, okay, so I already sent it. So if we go ahead and look at this, it will say the English version, which at first glance looks like it did not work correctly. However, it is also taking into account that I am an English user of ServiceNow. So my preferred language is English. Obviously, if you were an admin checking to see if things were firing appropriately, having this set in Japanese would make my job quite considerably harder considering my tenuous grasp of Japanese. So it takes that into effect when it's rendering the email for whomever is searching for them at an admin level. However, if we, maybe I didn't do this correctly. Give me one moment. It worked this morning. Let me see if I can add, it's turning into a little bit of a low code happy.
That's all right.
Let me make sure the okay, I was missing the related.
Okay, another related list.
Oh. Yeah, this is good to show that you have to add the related list.
So there's a translated email contents that will need to be shown. If I scroll down, okay, that was it. So essentially, again, it's rendering it in English for me. That makes sense. I am an English user. However, it also shows that the actual email that was sent was the one that was sent in Japanese. And this is the contents of the email. So good to know that it is rendering appropriately. The one interesting fix to see, especially for languages that work off of character systems instead of like regular letters, is to see if that could be translated as well. But that's a case for another day. Are there any questions in the chat about these static translations?
I don't see that, but I do have a comment about groups. So if your mail notification was sending to a group rather than this one was to an assigned to, but if it was a group, it said, hey, let's go to all of the software group. And you had software group members all over the globe speaking various languages, it will dissect that group and send the messages to those individual people with the proper language settings.
Correct.
Assuming you've got the language translation set up in that related list of translated notifications. If you've got just English and Japanese and somebody wants to see it in Portuguese, it's going to default to whatever that parent record is. So they'll get English if there is no Portuguese translation. That's when you might want to request a translation and say, hey, we need a Portuguese translation of this particular message.
Also, if the group has like an email address that like is a distribution list, that will no longer work. So like I know at ServiceNow, like if you email this thing, all of us will get a notification about it.
Yep.
However, then obviously like it will not, it doesn't know that. So it will
right, because it doesn't know the individual members and it can't parse that from somebody else's DL that's on your Exchange.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. Prior to having this capability, Lisa had mentioned in the chat that she had done an issue where all the mail notifications were mail scripts, and the mail scripts would call a script include that then did the translations. Like that gets a little difficult to maintain, although it means you can have multiple translations. I'm not sure if you can translate the subject. You could do things through sysui message using gs.getMessage in your script that would say, I need the paragraph that says your incident's been updated. Okay, let's go do a gs.getMessage in the script to get the proper translation for that. So yeah, it kind of works, but it's a little harder to work around. One way that I did it when I was a customer way back when was similar to what you were talking about at the beginning. I would trigger my notifications on events. We didn't have the kind back then where you say incident, the record is updated or created, and do that. But if you go to the advanced view on that particular record right there, you'll see trigger when, and you'd have when an event is created. That was like the original. That's the OG way of when to send.
I still tend to do things that way.
Yeah.
And it has some benefits. It definitely, there's nothing wrong with it. You have to register an event. You have to, do the notification. And what I did is triggered one event, let's call it incident.updated, and then had multiple messages respond to that and check the user's language. But it only worked for specific users when you were sending to a single user, not to a group. So if you go to when to send, the section,
yes,
there, so it says send when record inserted or updated. There's some other options. And if you had the flow designer stuff in here, you could say when flow is flow notification is triggered, whatever it was. But event is fired is like the original way to do that. And then I would put in the conditions. It says short description changes or state changes, assignment group changes, and user's language is English. Here's the English subject and body. User's language is ZH. Here's the Chinese language. So you'd have to still make individual ones. And it was laborious. And like you said, they weren't really connected in any way other than that event.
Yeah.
So this is a nicer way to couple those together. Similar technology, but a much better implementation.
One thing that I wanted to address, I can't show it because I don't have the third-party access, but if you do use dynamic translation, it is the utilization of this checkbox and the request translations that would trigger the appropriate. Obviously, you have to set up the links, but that's what it would do it. One thing that I would challenge people, this could be a fun, I don't know, like build with AES type of thing to work on, but now that these notifications and translations are linked, probably a helpful workflow that could be created as if this is changed, maybe email someone to update these or turn it into a state of needs update. Because that is one thing that does not exist currently. There's no way to know how true both are. Which can get messy, especially if the owner of all of them does not speak all of the languages. So like you couldn't double check. So maybe adding an extra field or flow to handle some of that, at least so there's a paper trail that, hey, we've changed this one 8 times, but the Japanese or Polish one is the same. What do we do? Something like that.
We had a question of if the email was to be sent to an email address, like a hard-coded email address, but not a ServiceNow user, what will happen with the notification? And I believe if it's direct to an email address, since the system doesn't know their preferred language, it defaults to the parent notification.
Yes.
Yep. That's correct, Amundo. Well, that is static translations. This is kind of a short and sweet topic, but definitely one that is worth noting, especially since it's free and multiple people work with companies that speak multiple languages. So is there any other fun info for us to discuss, team?
I always get a moment of reminiscing when it comes to slow down, Charles. When it comes to email translations like this. It's one of my first and fondest memories at Knowledge 10. I had done this as a customer in the way that I said with the events and multiple notifications. And Jared Bennett, who is actually a real person, former employee of ServiceNow, was doing a presentation on this topic, on notifications, not on the translation specifically. And somebody asked, hey, is there a way to do multiple languages in emails? And he reached out to the audience, which included his mother for some reason. She was at Knowledge 10. I was getting a kick out of that. It's like, well, invite your family.
Yeah.
And I raised my hand and I explained what I had done. So that was technically my first knowledge presentation, was alongside Jared.
How cool. And I think
Jared Bennett?
Jared Bennett.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the one from The Big Short. Never mind.
No, yeah, Jared Bennett is also the one who came up with the original location names for the location table, which has been replaced in the last few years.
Damn.
And in the chat, Lisa is saying this also makes use of translation request tasks that are used in knowledge management translations, I believe.
Very cool.
Nice. All right.
That's all she wrote for today.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Good topic. I'm sure we'll get a lot of people watching later. Thank you very much for watching live with us. If you want, keep an eye on that content calendar. We do have more creator toolboxes coming up. We even had a suggestion. I've actually got a meeting later today to talk about a potential upcoming topic that I think is going to be quite fascinating for people who are doing integrations and exchanging user information. But watch our calendar Tuesday mornings, Eastern. No, Tuesday mornings. Well, I guess it's watch the calendar. I can't keep track of the time zones for you. And then Fridays, we have live coding happy hour, which is a little more unstructured. We kind of forge our way through. We've got a lot of content ideas in the pipeline. We have a lot of housekeeping to do on some of our apps, a lot of apps being built for the future. So a lot of fun happening there. And we've got a lot of people raising their hand going, hey, I'd like to be on live coding happy hour too. If you've got an idea, certainly reach out to us. And it's always fun to, and it sounds kind of selfish, but it's fun to watch somebody else work for once. So thank you very much, Lauren, for doing the heavy lifting. You people watching don't know what happened behind the scenes in the last 24 hours to really pull this together. So we really appreciate what Lauren has done. Thank you, Earl. We wish you all the best on your paternity leave coming up. And thank you again for everybody watching. Take care. We'll see you all. Everybody stay safe. See you soon.
See you next year.